So let's start. I'm going to read something out for everyone, and let's, for 2-3 minutes, we'll just contemplate upon that. So, this is two verses I'm reading from 37 Practices of a Bodhisattva. When encountering objects which please us, to view them like rainbows in summer, not ultimately real, however beautiful they appear, and to relinquish craving and attachment is the practice of a bodhisattva. So whenever something pleasing is happening, something that we like, it's making us delighted, it's making us happy, not to cling to that is the practice of bodhisattva, that looking at that as coming and going, coming and going. And the second verse, the various forms of suffering are like the death of one's child in a dream. By clinging to deluded perceptions as real, we exhaust ourselves. So it's all the forms of unease, restlessness, suffering that we have. They are like a death of the death of one's child in a dream. So if in dream my child passes away, how does it matter? So they are saying the various forms of suffering are like the death of one's child in a dream. By clinging to deluded perceptions as real. So if I think of that suffering as real, 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 that yes, this is happening, and yes, I have to, and I require this, the craving that we have and we run after it, we exhaust ourselves. So this is the experience of most of us, that whenever we run after our own deluded perceptions, wanting this to make us happy, wanting that to make us happy, it just lands up, we just land up very, very exhausted and drained towards the end of the day. Therefore, when encountering unfavorable circumstances, to view them as illusions is the practice of a bodhisattva. So whether in the first verse was whether pleasant situations are happening, to view them as rainbows in a summer, like a dream, like an illusion, comes and goes, and not to cling. And when unfavorable situations are happening, to view also them as a dream is the practice of a bodhisattva. So let's concentrate with our breath for 2 minutes. We'll just stay with the breath and maybe reflect upon this deeply. So we see that what happens is when we look at our thoughts, feelings, stories that are happening in our family with ourselves, of if we look at them as a dream, then we don't have to take them so seriously, because just like dreams, when they happen, we don't, you know uh, cry over our dreams or whatever. We don't take them so seriously. When we wake up, we know that it was a dream, and hence we can let go. We don't have to cling. So our topic that we are coming to in psychic education is surrender. And it's, I believe it's a very, very important topic. All of us may have heard of it. We have heard surrendering to the divine, uh, giving ourselves, offering ourselves to the divine. So it would be nice if we, before we start the session, take up something from the book. Before we start, if it would be nice if we can share whatever our present understanding, practical one, that what we are able to do in our own lives. How do we see surrender? When can I say that uh, in this moment I am surrendered? It's not that we have to show off that we are surrendered. It's like just taking baby steps. And how do you feel when there is a state of surrender? And what helps, what does not help? So if there are any reflections and that one would like to share, you are most welcome. If you had experiences but you don't want to share, that's also okay. And if you have challenges in surrender, there also you can, feel free to share. So anyone who would like to unmute and share, start with sharing. And also knowing that whatever we share is a just temporary relative understanding. So we are far away from absolute, but whatever we share is relative. Yes, Mohita, please go ahead.
It's like a part of you resist it, ma'am, because it's like, you feel that you can control the situation. Somewhere down the line, you feel that no, you can. But a part of you also knows that, it's wise to just let it go and surrender, because there's so much above and beyond you, right? It's not everything that you can understand. There's so much happening. There's so much. Every is like, as you had told me earlier, like every soul has their own journey, and even if you want them to be like in your life, but if they have their own journeys, you can't do anything about it. So I think that's the reason why, like, I started to surrender, like, because you realize that it's also freeing, and it kind of liberates you. It makes you feel better, way better than when you were trying to control things. So that's my understanding, and I think right from the time I've started surrendering, my life has become uh, very simple. So I just love the fact that it has introduced so much simplicity in my life, and it makes me feel like a feather that's just floating on water. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's my insight.
yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing. Yes. Yeah. Anyone else? Their experience?
Good afternoon, everyone. So, I feel like surrender for me so far has been always a lot of stumbling, um, uh, thinking that, okay, this is it, and then facing a lot of challenges. The mind throws up so many um, uh, issues with respect to unworthiness, or who are you, or things like, is this really what you're supposed to be doing? Is this really your path? Things like that, a lot of stumbling. And and there are times when surrender does work, I think there is a lot that happens before an unconscious surrender, and that is a lot of fear. But in that unconscious sort of, I don't contrive it. I naturally sometimes it does happen, and then there is a lot of courage. And I think that is a direct reflection of the surrender. The effect of surrender is a lot of courage, and the beauty is we don't even know that before that there was a lot of fear. So I feel like there are two ways or two stumblings that happen. One, consciously we try to because we know it's something we have to do by and by, or we're inspired, or it's what we aspire towards. But then life situations sometimes unconsciously, it lets you make that act of letting go. And in that, you find that, oh my God, I was so fearful before. I didn't even know in all of that chaos. So I think this is what a little, few things on what I felt so far.
Yes, thank you so much, Ashwarya. Yes. Yeah, anyone else wants to share their experience with surrender? Many a times we have to surrender to the inability to surrender. That's also surrendering. Yeah. Anyone? Yes,
Yeah,
Shweta.
I just wanted to add a little bit that uh, yes, surrender I do practice and in my own way, and it definitely eases, the burden. And somehow, like I always have said, that challenges to aate rehte hain, but when you are in this acceptance mode, na ki surrender, to I have gradually felt that the stickiness is less. Like अभी आप जो बता रहे थे ना कि think of it as an illusion, it's like a dream. ये सब मुझे feel होता है, मतलब nothing is sticking to me last few months. And so yeah, मतलब like it's an experience. And समझ आता है कि it is what it is. And yet you can feel light. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Shweta. Yes. Yeah, anyone else? Any sharing on surrender? Any personal experience, reflection? So, okay, I see that nobody is further unmuting. So let's watch. There is something, different perspective on letting go or surrender, which I want to share with all of us before we move to the text for today. And that's Rupert Spira talking about letting go. So we'll watch the video, the teaching first, and then we can share or discuss about if we have whatever we have gathered through it. Um, okay, so let's listen to this.
If we speak of letting go of the identification, that is an activity of the mind. Rather than letting go of the identification, investigate the nature of the one that seems to be letting go. If we deeply investigate that one, we find that it is not attached to any experience in the first place. And it is therefore not necessary for that one to practice letting go of anything, because in its own experience of itself, it is already self-fulfilled, independent, free, self-knowing. The screen, in other words, doesn't have to let go. When the movie comes to an end, the screen doesn't practice letting go of the movie. It is the character in the movie that has to practice letting go of her attachments. But the nature of the screen is already unattached. It is unattached or free by nature, at its origin, not as the result of some practice. So rather than practice letting go or giving up, investigate the nature of the I that is letting go.
So, those of us, it's a long teaching. Those of us who are interested, they can watch it on YouTube, the full one. I think it's very beautiful. So, basically, the idea is that to recognize that who we are basically, and if we only practice letting go, then he says that as if you are trying to let go of one thing, then another thing, then another thing, and you see that there are thousands of things that you have to let go. No, so many things that you have to let go. So why not change the case of mistaken identity? Rather than knowing myself as this sticky self which sticks and clings to everything. This is my own, this is my own, this is the way I want it, this is the way I want it. So this stickiness, rather than living as this stickiness, can I live as awareness? Because if I live as awareness, then I see that I don't have to let go, because by nature I am detached. Because just like space has this laptop, space has this body, this so many things in space, these posters on the wall. But when this all crumbles down, space is still detached. Nothing is taken away from space, and nothing came into space. It allows things to come, it allows things to go. So when we recognize that our true nature is this basic essence of awareness, that I see thoughts coming and going, I see feelings coming and going, and I am not that thought and feeling, but I am that awareness in which things come and go, people come and go, relationships come and go. So if I correct the case of mistaken identity, then surrender, so to say, it becomes far more easier. It's not a sacrifice that I am making, that, oh, I have to let go of such beautiful things in order to surrender to the divine, not like that. So I find this very, very beautiful, that it's just the correction at the root of it that we need to do. Although saying it is easy, but the practice of it, uh, or one can say non-practice of it, although it's a practice, because we are so used to live as the clingy self. We are so used to live as that desiring, thinking of every thought and feeling as real, that for us it is a practice to live as awareness. While slowly, as we become adept in this practice, we realize that we were always awareness, because that's how we know things. We know things because I am the knowing, I am the awareness behind the things. If I was not the knowing, who would know? So if we can, along with whatever we read, and so many scriptures, good reading that we do, if we can also devote some time to this practice of living as awareness, and that goes parallelly with being mindful of whatever I'm thinking. Okay, this is what is going on in my head, this is what is the feeling arising. Okay, I see it. Okay, anger is arising, I see it. Pain is there in the head, no, I see it. So living more as the seeing, rather than clinging to what comes in the seeing. So this basic correction, I think, is absolutely crucial. Otherwise, there is no end to suffering. If I have the case of mistaken identity, that I don't even know who I am. And as he was sharing the metaphor that the screen on which the movie is projected, the screen does not have to practice letting go of the characters on the movie. The moment the thing ends, its screen is pure, detached. And it was always detached. It's just that things were appearing and non-appearing and disappearing on it. That was the background for the play. And the play was always a play, Leela, as we say, it's always a play. But when we forget the screen and only take the characters very seriously, our life becomes a misery. So, parallelly, as I am looking at the characters appearing on the movie screen, can I also be aware of the screen behind the characters through which I know? Then surrender becomes very easy. Surrender, relatively, we realize that we are surrendered, we have no option. Because when everything is divine, there is nothing but divine, then, but when we live as the egoistic consciousness, more as this clingy, desiring self, always expecting, demanding my thoughts, my feelings, my this, my family, then it becomes important for me to, uh, you know, actually practice surrender. That's where most of us are, because we can't let go of the ego. And ego is the mistaken identity. We are not the egos. Because when we look for I, when I say, I am feeling sad, when I use this sentence, I am feeling sad. Now, if you look for, investigate for it, maybe a doctor, opens up, will he find sadness somewhere? Will he find I somewhere? I have a finger, I have a, this head. So if we go closer to it, we see that we don't find this egoistic I. We only find the I of awareness, that I am aware of the sadness. I am aware of the thought. I am aware of the ache or a pain. So all that we find in the name of I is awareness. I know this is there. I know, I see this, I see that. Seeing is there. But the separate self is never to be found. That's why we call it a case of mistaken identity or a falsehood. Mother says falsehood. Ego is the falsehood. Because it's not there. And whole of our lifetime is lived as an ego. And trying to push the ego. Now, how will you push the ego when it's not even there? So, it's almost makes you dizzy when you look closely at these ideas of ego, surrender, awareness. It makes you dizzy. The mind cannot grasp it. The limited mind with which we think, it cannot grasp it. But it's good to contemplate over it, because that's our life, we are living it. So if I don't even have some time to spend on these reflections, then what's the point? Living a fake life, or living as a person who I'm actually not. Living as a role which I am actually not. Limiting myself in a role which I am actually not. And wondering, when will this suffering end? The suffering can't end if I don't recognize myself. So surrender then comes naturally when we specially work on correcting the case of mistaken identity in our heads, that all that is there to I is the sense of awareness. And then I don't have to take anything personally. Life becomes easy, as some of you were saying, feathery light, or I stop, as Mother says, that human beings are the most miserable beings on this planet because we take ourselves too seriously. Ego uh, cannot tolerate not being taken seriously. How could you laugh over my problem? See. So if we can laugh over our so-called problems, uh, things begin to get light. So that's just one of the ways to look at this aspect of surrender, letting go. And as Rupert was sharing, that we cannot practice letting go, just like space cannot practice letting go, because it is by nature detached. Space is by nature always safe. And in Savitri, Mother and Sri Aurobindo shares that our true nature always is kept safe, like a diamond. No matter how much dirt gets on a diamond, it remains a diamond. It's valuable, it's precious. So just like space or our awareness, it's always untainted by no matter whatever we may have done in the past or thought in the past. No sins ever committed can taint our true nature. Always kept safe. So whenever I want to turn back now to from the stories in the head to the true nature, it's always there. It was never gone. The treasure is always kept safe. And that leads us to the point that what is the point of living as a beggar when we are the king all the time? Most of us live like a beggar, demanding this from a relationship, that from a relationship, always unhappy, not realizing the beauty of solitude. So we have that capacity, to come back to our true nature. Not come back because it's always there, but our attention then comes back to it. But knowing that it's always kept safe, and I was forever full. I was forever content. It's just that I lost myself in delusion, as they say. So anything from here, anyone, before we start the slides? Okay, so I'll go then to where we were. So I think we stopped at this stepping back, remembering offering. I think we covered last time. Covered in the sense touched upon last time. Remember and offer. And yeah. Okay. So let's look at this before we start surrender. I think it's one of the last slides here. So this is something from the mother, and it's talking about this change of consciousness or shift of consciousness or reversal of consciousness. So let us read. If anyone would like to unmute and read this, would be nice.
Shall I read?
Yes, please. Yeah.
There is a partial change of consciousness which makes you lose all interest in things that you once found desirable, but it is only a change of consciousness and not what we call the transformation. For the transformation is fundamental and absolute. It is not merely a change, but a reversal of consciousness. The being turns inside out, as it were, and takes a completely different position. In this reverse consciousness, the being stands above life and things and deals with them from there. It is at the center of everything and directs its action outwards from there. I repeat, this reversal is sudden. Something opens within you, and all at once you find yourself in a new world. The change may not be final and definite to begin with. It sometimes requires time to settle permanently and become your normal nature. The mother.
So all of us, a point comes in our life that something shifts. Yes, and as mother says that reversal is sudden. A change of consciousness may happen gradually, but this reversal that happens, that you cannot live as the older self anymore. The person that you were a few weeks ago or years ago or days ago, you just can't go back there. You just can't live like that. It's almost like, I think one of the places Mother also shares that a human being now cannot live like a dog. So it's that kind of a reversal, that now it's impossible for us to live like a dog or a cow, because there is no U-turn possible, the shift that has happened from an animal consciousness to human consciousness. So like that, a reversal happens and you cannot live like your older self anymore. But as Mother says, that this change is not final and definite to begin with. It gives you a very clear idea of what is the possibility. But still, because older patterns are so hard to erase, they keep on coming up. But now there is something in me which recognizes the older pattern and feels like, I don't want to be there again. Something like that. So you have a breather in between the tendency and the awareness, that you see the tendency rising up and you know that you have a choice. And you don't want to be in that ugliness of living as the tendency again and again. You have lived and done that enough. So that's why Mother says that it sometimes requires time to settle permanently. So this new self, as if a new birth, you gradually become accustomed with it and live as this new self. Many a times our relationships change drastically, that you don't connect much with the older friends that you had, or maybe you connect with one or two that were there, but the rest of them you just can't connect with. It happens many a times because they now do not see you as the older self that you were, so they are not able to relate with you that much. Many a times this also happens, and maybe new acquaintances may be made, but that's immaterial, and it takes time to become your normal nature. So maybe you realize that you need more time for solitude now. You don't feel like going out and socializing that much. This is just a couple of really little pointers, not that it has to happen. And also this part in the first paragraph, that in this reversed consciousness, the being stands above life and things and deals with them from there. So there is more and more a recognition of your true nature, and you see separately the surface consciousness, which is life, movements of emotions, movements of feelings, movements of thoughts, and now you don't identify with them, cling to them as strongly as you did earlier. You lived as that earlier, but now there is a breather in between. So as if you are, looking at from a distance, and this just happens out of innumerable number of efforts or whatever, the sadhana. It just happens that uh, now you have this almost like a parallel consciousness in which you live. So, yeah.
Yeah, Monica,
Yeah.
sorry, I just want to share something. See, just now you were mentioning, we are not able to connect with people whom with we were very close, and less socializing. I'm able to see, I'm able to connect with this sentence very well because, since some years, I'm not able to socialize. We live in an apartment. We lived in our apartment since 7 years, but I don't have any personal friends type. I just say hi, that's all. So it's not that I am a great jnani or something, but I am not able to mingle with people who have, not this normal conversation. Hey, where did you buy this sari? Where did you buy this nail polish? Did you see that movie type? I'm not able to connect. And I'm not able to connect with, too spiritual also. So I used to find myself very, ask myself what happened, actually who you are, what do you want, why you are not able to socialize with anybody. See, when some function happens, so we'll come down, we'll just say hi. Oh, you live here? You don't need friends? Oh, this lady, she does not need any friends. She will be alone. People, comment like this. I used to feel very, I'll ask myself, is it anything wrong with me? So that is always a big question mark even now. I am not able to socialize. I am not able to talk freely with everybody. And people who were with whom I was very close, now I am not able to, I'm just saying hi, that's all. I don't know what is it. Maybe this is the consciousness, shift in consciousness, I don't know. So I'm able to connect with this sentence which you just mentioned. Beautiful, yeah. I'm able to see myself in that. Yeah.
I think Meera, you're not alone in this journey. I think a lot of us go through same. I mean, there are phases wherein I have felt the same. So I mean, that's two of us.
Okay. Okay.
That's
Thank you.
That
actually three of us, because I have also been through the same thing. Like I'm going through the same thing. So I think you're not alone.
Okay. Okay. So at least, when you said this, I am able to see, okay, it's not abnormal, when people say, oh, she does not need anybody. She will be all alone. She will not come out of the house. See, even if
I've
I
heard
go
the
for a
same
walk,
sentence.
I'll go alone. I don't need anybody because, if anybody talks, then I will not be able to, I feel I will not be able to concentrate on my walk. So I will not talk with anybody.
I think a lot
So
of people also feel because, I mean, they also feel that people like us have some kind of strength. A lot of people can't do that. I mean, they can't survive completely alone, right? So I think eventually they'll also move to the other side, just like us. But yeah, I think there's nothing wrong in being like you are or the way you are feeling. It's perfectly normal, and I think don't feel that you are abnormal, please. I mean, it's
okay,
completely normal.
thank you. At least somebody is there like me. I'm happy. I'm happy. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Monica. Sorry to interrupt. I couldn't resist, so I thought I'll share.
Yeah, anyone else on this?
Yeah, actually, I also don't talk much in my society also. So even in my school, I have very limited people whom I will talk to. So I mean, some people feel कि attitude है बहुत, है ना, ऐसे लगता है लोगों को कि this person is not talking much, तो पता नहीं शायद attitude होगा या क्या है. But I've realized that I'm comfortable with talking to very few people. And so as you said I go down for walk alone. Yeah, once in a while I will connect with them. If there is anything, I will stop, I'll say hi, I'll smile. But I do my walks alone, even if there are 10 more who are walking around. So they will continue to walk together. But it's not that I have anything against anyone or something like that, but I am just comfortable walking on my own, and I'll just continue to do that. So yes, and maybe I also fall in the same category.
So it is nice to know, a lot of people are like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not that I am against anyone. Yeah, okay. I mean, some people like talking, a lot about general things, or as you
Yeah.
said, ye kahan se liya or wo kya, and sometimes gossiping around also. While this happens, even I know while walking, the gossiping also happens. But somewhere I'm not very comfortable with that. I have stopped feeling comfortable with that actually. If I'm saying the right thing, yeah. I'm like, okay, fine, no problem. I am not wanting to know this. So many a times it happens that people feel that, अच्छा आपको ये भी नहीं पता है बिल्डिंग में ये हो रहा है, अच्छा आपको वो भी नहीं पता है स्कूल में ये हो रहा है. I said, no, I don't know, because maybe I'm not, sitting with the people who are talking more about all this. और I'm not interested in going and finding out कि अच्छा ये भी हो रहा है वो भी हो रहा है, like that.
I
Yeah,
think
thank
this
you, everyone.
happens.
Yes, yes, Ashwarya. Yeah.
I think this happens with the kind of content that we consume as well, with respect to entertainment or the books that we read. We don't connect with the kinds of books that we used to read some time back. Like I used to be a novel reader, but now I find it very hard to get into a novel. So I think that happens with what we consume as well.
Yeah. Swapna, you wanted to share something?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I'm also, you could say, you know, everyone was saying me too, me too. I'd say me too here as well. And in fact, I live in a country where I don't even speak the language of the majority. And so I've often thought, oh, is language part of the issue, you know, or a big part of the issue that creates a barrier between me and others? And so it's nice to, like the others, be part of others, you know, to hear others feel this way. And especially where I am assuming most of you are living where you can speak the language. So it blows that story that mind had, you know. On the other side, I also, you know, Monica, from the other texts that we've been looking at in terms of having compassion, is it called the 8 Truths, or anyway, you'll say the name in a moment, in your other session, where we're just, you know, looking at seeing the other and, you know, holding the other in the highest light possible. And I was trying to apply that principle, or we were looking at the example of Dalai Lama, who looks at everybody. He doesn't treat a politician any different from someone who sweeps the road. Or I think that means to me, like, whether it's a best friend or a stranger, people like the Dalai Lama, other great beings, the mother, you know, just to have that ability to open and somehow, I don't know, I guess, feel a connection, a oneness with everyone. Something about that really draws me, because of course I do long for more like-minded company. And especially when I live in a country where I'm very much the minority, then just to feel a sense of support, even sometimes practically, you know, when I don't have family here. So just if I'm sick or if I need help, or just moral, emotional support. But also from that spiritual point of view, to be able to relate to people in some kind of, just have that feeling where the other person wants to open up or be connected. That just seems so awesome. Because I remember one time I had the good grace to be in the presence of the Dalai Lama. It was in a giant stadium full of, I don't know, 10,000 people, 20,000 people. I'm not sure. It was in the United States. He was visiting. And I still remember the stadium was packed, absolutely packed. And of course, we had to be seated before the Dalai Lama came into the stadium to address everyone. And he walked into the stadium. He was this tiny figure, because we had seats way up in the stadium. It was one of these American giant football stadiums, way up in the bleachers. Saw a tiny little orange figure walk in, down below, because they had his stage right at the very center. And you could feel the peace. It was so palpable. They, of course, had a screen where you could see his face, but still, just seeing him walk in, you know, 10,000s of people were affected. And so somehow there's a great pull in me, I noticed, to be able to just everyday people around me, like all of you with people in your building, or me with people in the village I live in Europe, or with friends that I feel disconnected with. I don't know, there's something, I don't know, Monica, if you have something to say about that, of like how perhaps to connect more as well, despite feeling there's some kind of difference, you know, or lack of commonality.
Beautiful. Yeah. I think first of all, thank you for the imagery that you created. It was really very beautiful. And I would much resonate with what you are sharing, that instead of looking us as something different, to be on the same level with everyone around and to have this sense of oneness. If that can be our aspiration, it's a beautiful aspiration. And I think since we are all connected anyway, we are all one, no matter how separate we may think ourselves to be, more superior, more inferior, whatever categories the mind wants to make all the time. We are, in essence, everybody is connected. The bodies are not true separations. So I have a short. I I was not planning to show this today, but I figured it out when you were sharing. I thought it will be nice to share this. I may have shared this in the Bodhisattva session, the same teaching, but we'll look at a clip of it, a short part, where she shares that all the time we are just obsessed about ourselves. To see this obsession about ourselves, that what are people thinking of me, what does this guy think of me, am I for more inferior, more superior? So the mind is so obsessed with this narcissism. It's almost like, you feel almost like, getting away. What is this happening in the mind? So just look at it. Let's hear this teaching shortly, and maybe that clarifies something for us.
So therefore, for them, it was very salutary to think that, everybody else is more important than me. But really what it is saying, it doesn't really have anything to do with class or caste. What it's saying is that in general, when we meet with others, so often it happens that people are thinking, I wonder what they think of me. And we are listening to our thoughts and our opinions of that other person. And that other person is only important insofar as what they can do for me and my opinion of them. In other words, even when we are in society with others, we are still the center of our universe. And it's our opinions of them and what we perceive as their opinions of us which count. In other words, it's all me, 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 even when we're with others. And so this again creates, it creates a barrier. Because often you meet people and you can see they're not really listening to you. Or you're not really listening to them. You're just waiting for the time to give your opinion. Have you noticed? It's very rare to meet someone who absolutely empties out inwardly and just listens. Because they are not thinking of themselves, they are not thinking of what clever response they can give, they are not judging, they are just listening. And the other person is important. Themselves are not important. And that's what this means. It's not about high and low as far as, social status or caste or anything. It's to do with whoever we are with. At that moment, that person is the most important person in the universe for us because it's the person we are with. One sees that very much.
So after this, she talks about the Dalai Lama, how when he meets everyone, what Swapna was sharing, that in that moment, when he's meeting you, looking at you, you are the only person that exists for him. So, yeah, I think we have a lot to work within ourselves. whenever our attention goes back out there to somebody else, and what she shared here, that all the time we are just obsessed about ourselves. What are other people thinking about me? uh, how inferior or superior I am to the other person. I think it's so childish, but we do that. We are trapped in that most of the times. So to be of service to the other person, and listening is a service. When somebody walks by or passes by, and just being, just not even talking, just being with the other person without any demarcations of, that you are higher and superior and more spiritual, less spiritual, without any conceptions in the mind, just being there. I think that's so rare nowadays. So can I be that person, rather than wanting other people to be such? Can I be that loving presence? I think we have a lot of work there to do, all of us. We can, there is some comment here. Yeah. Yes, Snehi. And earlier we were saying that you are not alone, you are not alone. So I would say to Snehi, you are not alone. All of us are self-obsessed, and we have to work with this if we truly want to be of benefit to others. Yeah. So would that clarify anything for you, Swapna, what you were sharing?
Yes, it's good, because it's coming back to the realization that even, how much is that when I feel disconnected, there's a sense of that superior, inferior. Either I am superior, inferior, or they are superior, inferior. Which it's sometimes it's so subtle. We can just feel like either loneliness or like I'm so, I don't know, either I'm so full of the mother or I'm so spiritual that I don't need others. It can be so subtle, you don't even catch that it's actually still a level of superiority or a level of inferiority of, they don't see me. But it all boils, absolutely. I can see how it's still having me and the I at the center and referring to the world in that way. So I'm curious how if I were to now, maybe as an experiment, just live even a day or half a day, just to make it bite-sized, just like, okay, let's see, whoever I go out and meet, irrespective of language barrier or not. And if I were to just show up pretending to be someone like the Dalai Lama, what would unfold, and not have a precondition about it, or just no preconceived idea, even just show up and just do it at like an experiment. That's
like an experiment. Yes.
Yeah.
And also Mother talks about, disinterested love. Mother often talks about a love that is disinterested. So, when I am interacting with a human being, just to check within whether I have a personal interest here. I think that itself is very helpful. Is it that I'm feeling lonely and that's why I want to connect? Maybe we get to know that's the reason. Or maybe there is a purposelessness, that there is no purpose to my interaction. It's not that I'm unhappy otherwise and I want to feel happy and that's why I'm engaging in an interaction. So this is more like a disinterested love, where you just are there. You can't help but to be there. So as you said, it's a beautiful thing that we can experiment with in our life. And in that moment, where in that interaction, whatever physical, online, or whatever interaction, to see and to also keep on checking within that I don't have any manipulative ideas in the mind, because many a times we are just craving for some recognition, validation. We don't even know, we are not aware of it most of the times. So also to keep a check of that inwardly, not to claim anything, but inwardly. And when in that moment of interaction, we also see that there is also a self-forgetfulness. Your worries, your anxieties, your dramas of life, they are non-existent in that moment of a true interaction. They're all appearing like a dream almost, they don't exist. And Mother talks about self-forgetfulness. Mother talks about self-abnegation. that the thing that we are miserable is we are too obsessed with me, my story, myself, my needs, my demands. So when there is a self forgetfulness, there is joy. And yeah, I think that we have a lot to experiment with, as you said. We do meet people either on a shop, or we passing through a lift or a corridor. We interact with people all the time, and there's a lot we can experiment there to get to know more about ourselves, actually, not to do anything out there, but to know what's happening in me. Yeah. Okay, so anyone else, anything here? Also, again and again coming back to ourselves, and stabilizing ourselves in our practice, because many a times the outer glitter is so strong that our senses take us away. They kind of sweep us away, and all the focus goes to other people, other situations, things here, things there, whatever comes in through the senses. So it's also very important for us parallelly to stabilize ourselves, either mindfully with the breath, keeping a parallel consciousness with the breath, bringing the mind in the body again and again, and to parallelly keep a check of all the things that are going on in me. As Mother says, become more and more conscious of what's happening in you. And you see that you don't need any other entertainment. There is a circus going on inside of you. That's what she shares. That when she was little, she would not go out for entertainment like little kids, because she would see that there is so much of entertainment within me. Why do I need to go outside? Okay, yes, Nehi, I will share the links. Yeah. So to again and again bring the focus back to my practice, there you can be selfish, there we can all be self-centered. But this, what others are thinking about me, what I am thinking about myself, these are all just images. There's nothing solid in there. So that's why to keep away from the images in the head, and to bring our attention back mindfully to whatever we are engaged in throughout the day. Okay, I'm drifting to sleep. Okay, I'm observing somebody, maybe a person. In the middle of that, I become aware. Okay, I'm aware that I'm observing a person. I'm observing how I am sitting. I am aware that I am cooking. So parallelly, to bring this consciousness, parallel consciousness, as Mother says, as a true practice, and stabilize it along with the thread of breath, stabilize it for each one of us. uh, Become our good friends, become our bestest colleagues. And that intimacy that Swapna was talking of, the intimacy with other person, that will come naturally if I am intimate with myself. If I am my own intimate colleague, then if required, I would be intimate with any person, if need be. But the very fact that we are not intimate with our own self makes us so distant from other people also. All that we discuss it in is just the superficial conversations, because we ourselves don't know ourselves deeply. So again and again, the practice has to be my own practice. And if you require solitude for that, use more solitude. If you require, I'm sure we don't require much interactions, but interactions do happen. And to make use of those interactions on the path, take them on the path. Whatever has happened, to take them in a reflective way on the path. And nothing is an obstacle to the path. All things become a raw material. That's for certain. So I was sharing this. I think this regarding taking any decisions that in our lives when we are confused, we are confused which way to travel, and we maybe have two, three, four choices in front of us. Mother says that to put it, to give it to the psychic being, or to place it in the depth of your heart, all the choices, and you would already know which one is the right choice. Which one is not coming out of a desire or an expectation or a demand, but is for benefit of myself and others. So in that we will know, something in us will know which particular decision to take. We cannot fool ourselves. And if we are fooling, we will know that we are fooling. So we have that clarity within. All of us have that light within. So here, we begin with the theme of surrender. Maybe we can take up a few things at the moment. Not the whole topic won't be possible. So surrender is an inner movement. It's like inwardly something decides in me that I want to belong to, not to a person, not to a caste, to a creed, to a certain country, but I want to belong to the divine. And when we say divine, it means everything. So surrender is this inner movement in which you give yourself. So those of us who have faith with the mother, that I offer my life to the mother, and may mother do whatever she deems fit for this particular life. And then the first thing that happens is that whatever outer life situation that I am going through right now, how can I make use of it? That whatever outer life situation I am going through right now, maybe a loss of a relationship, maybe some difficult situation at workplace, anything, something goes off all the time. So then once I've given my life to the mother, then there is also this certainty that, okay, if I am put in this situation right now, there must be something that mother wants me to, go through or experience. So let me be okay with this. Let me go through this in faith. So as if you somehow settle down, you otherwise the mind is always restless, no, I don't want this, no, I don't want this, no, I don't want this. So suddenly when you are in a state of even a bit of surrender, that okay, mother wants me to go through this challenge or the issue, there must be something good, so let me go through it, because if mother has chosen, I don't want to question it. So then something in me settles down and stops resisting, because we create suffering in resisting. Whenever, as if a humongous flow of Ganges is coming, and see that, I mean, as if you are trying to build a wall in front of that, you will be a failure. You'll suffer again and again. So that's what we want to do all the time. Whatever now is happening, I don't want that, I don't want that, and in that we suffer. So when we have a bit of a surrender, not even a true complete surrender or detailed surrender, even a bit of surrender, that okay, the universe has put me into this situation, my loved one is taken away, or maybe I've lost a relationship, I've lost my country, or I've lost a job. Maybe there is something good, through this experience. So can I open my heart a bit and go through that experience in faith? So then, we open up and we are ready to be here in the now. Then somehow, that restlessness that was happening, trying to build a dam in front of the, what's happening right now, that disappears at least, it miles down. We are not resisting anymore. That really helps. And that also helps us to enjoy or savor whatever is there in the present moment. Because we, as we all, again we talk about death, we are not even certain of the next moment. So why to take so much of baggage all the moments? So much of baggage we carry. What will happen when I grow up after 2 years? Are you sure you are going to grow up? So much of worry. Why? Mother shares that we should not worry because most of the times the things that we worry about, they don't even happen. And we waste time worrying about. Where I could have been rather, being aware fully with the breath. Okay, what's going on in the body, what's going on in the mind, and taking a stance as awareness, knowing myself as awareness, and not as the character in the story. Then things become okay. So that's just a sneak peek into surrender. We'll take up the topic. I think I took a long time to finish or wind up with the earlier, going on things, and also the videos that we saw. I think they were also important to add on. So we'll take up surrender more deeply. Uh, and there is also a session long back I gave on surrender. I think it was with Namaha. It was with Namaha. Although it's an old session, I don't know how relevant it would be today, but words of the mother are there, and 11 points of walking towards the psychic being was also there. So I'll post it on the group. The topic was surrender, and if some of us may want to go through, they can go through it, and then we will continue the journey next week. Surrender. Yeah. So any reflections here at this moment, anyone?
I had something coming up. You'd mentioned a few minutes ago about, being intimate with oneself is the key, learning to be really intimate. And I think it seems it's synonymous with being one with the divine within and being aware. These are all like signposts on the way, perhaps, to the same state of being. And yet I'm left going, why does it often feel like such a almost lonely journey? Is it just that the feeling of loneliness versus intimacy with oneself? The loneliness is ego coming in to hijack, or the vital, or is it something else? And if we are, the divine, and just being intimate with myself is connecting to the divine or to the mother, then why this challenge all the time? Or is it just simply that's why we're all this journey of becoming human to a divine being? I don't know, but just that piece about the loneliness and the being intimate with oneself, just
So, yeah, I think this is something we all struggle with. So this is me, and this is another person, and there are many others like that. Now, if I consider myself as this, that this is where I begin and this is where I end, then this person will appear far away from me because I am this. See how far away I am, the illusion of the senses. And I cannot escape loneliness if I know myself as this. And same with this person. He cannot also escape loneliness because he also considers him this. So loneliness is a byproduct of living as an egoistic consciousness. As long as I think of myself as this limited individual, I will forever be lonely. And that's why I go again back to the beginning of the session where we started with correcting the case of mistaken identity. To know that I may appear as this, but to investigate that, is this where I begin and this is where I end? That's it. So if we investigate deeply, then we ultimately realize ourself, which is knowing myself, who I truly am. And then there is no loneliness in there. There is only oneness that we feel. And slowly we also begin to enjoy the solitude that we are left with. You know, that we are now not afraid of that solitude. We are not afraid of that aloneness, if one can say. That aloneness is beautiful, but loneliness kills, because loneliness is coming from being a separate self. You know? So, although it appears like a little topic, but it's the crux of our lives, you know. So, as long as I live as an ego, know myself as this person, limited individual, he has this opinion, this thought, this background, this education. As long as I become rigid as that personality, it is impossible that I am not lonely. My loneliness is not going to go away. But if I realize who I truly am, that's what we were talking of, you know, working on ourselves, realizing our true nature. Then we see that, oh my God, I appear as this person, but I'm one with everyone, you know, even animals. So where is the point of being lonely? But it takes time for us to get to that realization. Before that, we are all lonely. And you are right, you know, when you said that it's coming from the vital. I think a part of it is vital also, because this desirey, clingy self, which always is separate, you know, so I am incomplete, and I want to complete myself. So this is the clingy self that we are most of the times. As long as I am this desiring self, I will forever be lonely and incomplete. So the idea is, many of us try, you know, to get into a relationship, maybe then we will be completed, but we don't get completion in any relationship. We all know that. And the idea is to ultimately realize who we truly are. There is no shortcut. There is no shortcut.
Yes, and you're right. I can see also there's that piece of running and desiring something and running away from something else. Like I just noticed that's part of it, which I hadn't picked up on before, you know. So it's like this running towards the oneness and wanting to run away from then the loneliness.
Beautiful.
And then that's exactly then inherent in that already is separation and duality and pain and blah blah blah, blah. So
Yeah, and wherever
so,
I am in the middle of duality, I will be getting, you know,
yes,
kind of, yeah, crushed.
yeah, right,
Crushed.
right. And the key is like what you'd written in one of the chats, you know, about the millstone is to
Yeah.
be at the very center of the millstone, and then you don't feel crushed. Yeah, got it.
Exactly.
Thanks.
Beautiful. Good
Yeah.
observation. Yes. Yeah. So I think this is something which we can keep handy, that the moment we feel we are getting crushed, uneasy, and, you know, something is not right, to see that we are, as you rightly observed, you know, that I'm running to this and running away from this. So wherever there is this poles of duality, we cannot be safe. We will be crushed. We'll appear, we'll have a lot of misery and, yeah, suffering. Yeah. And when I recognize that, yes, loneliness is there. Okay, loneliness is rising up. Being mindful of loneliness, that itself is enough. You know, okay, lonely. You don't have to do anything about it. That's the magic. Okay, thought of loneliness rising up, thought of separation rising up. You know, I am aware. I am aware. Don't need to do anything about it. And if there is an action in certain contexts, some actions may be required, then it takes place automatically. You know, the right action emerges. It's not a dumb state of awareness. The right action kind of emerges out of your being, and you know what to do in that moment. Imagine, you know, dog, somebody is beating a dog. Immediately, if you are sensitive, you know, you immediately the right action emerges and you try to protect the dog. So no really, you know, logical analysis required here. You know what to do in the right moment if you're sensitive. So, and many a times most of our actions are not even required. That's why we'll end up creating more and more karma, you know, because most of the actions are originated from this sense of separate self, it adds on to our karma, more and more burden on our heads. So if in a moment of loneliness I see sadness arising, can I just be my friend and I say, okay, I am aware that sadness is arising. Not to even label it, I am aware of whatever is there. Not to even label is at it as sadness. So that's being our bestest friend. That not to worry, I am here. Not to worry, okay, you are lonely, I am here. You are sad, I am here. I am not leaving you. So that itself is, as you were sharing, this getting intimate with ourselves, being there for ourselves. Yeah.
I'm aware it's quite long. It's going longer into the session, but it's just such a great point and thread. I feel it's like then I've heard it over and over again in different sources of like as one comes closer then to being awareness or at one, then one meets more like-minded people or like-minded community, right? And then I catch myself going, okay, now it's been quite a few decades, perhaps the most of my life. And there's still, I mean, of course, completely grateful. There's a handful of really dear friends around the planet, that I can really count on and say, okay, these are kindred souls and be grateful for. Yet is it a natural course of events that like-minded community comes? And how does, or is it that some of us are just meant to be more solitary, Yeah, it's it seems to be promised somehow in many a way, yet I'm curious if it's reality or not,
You'll figure out for yourself. No, like an adventure, you will know. I think the basic idea, Swapna, I think here is that, as you were already observing beautifully, that not to want something because you are running away from something. So like-minded community may come, may not come, I don't know. No, we don't know. Nothing is certain. But right now, whatever is there, to be aware of that, to be with that, not to run away from that. And if I'm running away, to know that I'm running away. And whatever will happen, will not happen, who knows? Your journey is your journey, and all of us have, again, different paths. Why to predict it? Why to make it so predictable?
Yeah, and that takes us back to surrender.
And also notice that when you talk about a like-minded community, what are you seeking there? How do you feel when you are in a like-minded community? How do you feel?
Somewhere, or for me, it's not even community. If I think of certain friends, it's somewhere I can just completely be myself.
Beautiful.
Don't have to put on any kind of mask or, think. And yes, Nehi, I saw in the chat says, feel secure. It's like
Secure.
exactly, just relax, secure in just who I am, how I am, very transparent and authentic,
Beautiful.
and no effort. Yeah,
Beautiful.
a lot of flow.
So can you be that right now?
Good one.
Right now, being okay, this teacher called Pema Chodron, Buddhist teacher, she talks about being okay with groundlessness. She talks about being okay with impermanence. And to know that we actually don't have any ground. So what I see, what I'm seeking for in a like-minded community is a ground. And if there is an outer ground provided to you, also know that it can be taken away also. If I have an intimate friend who came into my life and I made her or him my ground, I have to be sure that she or he will be taken away sooner or later. And in knowing that can I be okay with groundlessness? Because whenever we make any person, any life situation, any community our ground, even living light, if I make living light my ground, if you make living light your ground, be sure that you will be shaken when it's not there. So, can I be okay with impermanence? Can I be okay in groundlessness? That yes, there is no ground. And isn't that liberating? Having no ground is so liberating. I mean, people jump from cliffs to experience this, groundlessness. What are they doing in bungee jumping and all that? They are experiencing this state of freedom, groundlessness, where there is no ground. I think that is ultimately liberating, to know that yes, I can never trust on anyone. I can never, no matter how faithful a relationship I may have right now, the very fact that it is a material thing, a material person, or whatever, it will be taken away. So can I be okay with that? Can I not make anything, anyone my ground? Don't you feel a sense of liberation there?
Yeah, just now my experience when you said, like, can I just feel it now? Yeah, it's amazing liberation, because it's like it's not dependent on someone else being around. Or I was thinking particularly of one of my best friends, and it's like, oh yeah, I can just have that just right here, right now. And then, yeah, I get it, as much as I've heard lots of teachers say it, including you, Byron, Katie, by being your own very best friend.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, there it is. Like, I don't have to have this particular friend right here. I can just feel it, right? And it's a great window to see it's possible.
Yeah. And it's not that when things come, people come in my life, I don't enjoy them, but when they're not there, I'm not unhappy.
Yeah, absolutely. Because as it is anyway, I wouldn't want her to spend 24/7, attached to my side. First of all, she lives in a different country. And secondly, of course, she has a life, right? So someone I love anyway, I appreciate and respect that they have to do all their other life, the rest of their life, and there are other people in their lives and everything. So it's like, yeah, absolutely. Just to be so free, then I get it. Then it's like free, free of not needing something. Yeah.
And the good thing about this is that I am making myself my own ground, that because you are not going to see yourself passing away, that, oh, Swapna is gone, So Swapna cannot see passing away of Swapna, in the sense that as long as you are there, you are there. Right? So other friends may come and go, but you are not going to come and go before you. And that's why we talk about coming back home to ourselves, or whatever we call ourselves, or in other words, being okay with groundlessness. Knowing that impermanence is the way of material stuff, including people, situations, countries, whatever. Things will change, not to expect happiness from things. I think that's very liberating. Because when I am now getting pain from changing of situations and things, I just get reminded of, oh wow, this was never supposed to be, because I can never depend on these things for happiness. So I'm free, wherever I go, I can take myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, because then you see, it's like mother also saying, right, I'm right there in your heart. And I always still see it as like, where, why can't I feel you then, And it's like, oh no, it's as simple as that. It's like, oh, can I just, that was very good, that exercise, or just you saying, like, how does that person make you feel, or like-minded community make me feel, and then just to feel it right now, like just that. Yeah.
And also to know that the mind will again and again go into the lack. So you may have experienced something right now in the session, but it doesn't mean that it has changed forever, because our old patterns are very hard patterns. So the mind will again go to the lack. And when the mind is going into the thought of lack, to be mindful that, okay, the mind is going into the lack. Just that. Not to give it any more meaning at all.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hmm.
So as Snehi was sharing, you know, wanting to feel secure. So can we feel secure in ultimate unsecurity? That would be the biggest security. You know, can I feel secure and safe when I know things can happen, change anytime, you know? Can I do that? That's connecting with our deeper strength. To have ultimate security in the midst of totally uncertain situations. So yes, yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for staying longer, and thank you for listening, reflecting upon, and questioning and doubting. Yeah,
Thank you,
wishing
madam.
everyone a good
Thank you,
Sunday.
Monica. It was
Bye-bye.
very, very useful session. Thanks so much.
Bye. Thank you too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for
Bye.
the extra
Bye,
time.
all.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Thanks to you for joining. Yeah. Bye-bye.